Okay, everybody, I understand we cut out for a little bit there, but we're back, and we're back just in time for Dick to offer the gospel and his sermon this morning. So hopefully you stuck around with us, knowing that we would figure it out. We are back. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened this morning. So we will investigate that a little bit and hope it doesn't happen again. So we're just going to give this just a minute and maybe people will hook back in. So we can do announcements. Thank you. I see 4 of you coming back in. I will do a couple announcements. Well, that's a good idea, Dick. Well, we're coming back in here. There is going to be a hymn sing today after worship. It's a Zoom meeting. So if you want to be a part of that, if you did not get the invitation that went out last week, it went out again this morning. If you did not get it, let us know in the comments and we will get that out to you, or email me. We will get that out to you. Also wanted to announce this week I'm going to be taking a couple weeks of, there's Chris Green. Hi, Chris Green. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for hooking in with us. So just so you know, I will be taking a little bit of time away. I will not be answering emails or coming into the office. But if you do have a pastoral emergency, please, please, please just call me. I certainly will be available for anyone who needs anything. Okay. So, and with that, hopefully people are going to be catching up with us again. And Dick, I will get out of your way. Dick is going to be offering the gospel lesson as well as the sermon this morning.
You never quite know what's going to happen when you're live on something like this, and it was an interesting experience this morning. The gospel is from the Gospel according to Luke, and we're concentrating this morning on the 2nd chapter, verses 8 through 20. In that same region, there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And an angel of the Lord appeared unto them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good news of a great joy, which will be for all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign unto you. You will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill to all." Now when the angels had gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing which has come to pass, which the Lord has made known to us." And they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. When the shepherds saw the babe, they made known the sayings that had been told them concerning the child, and everyone who heard the shepherds was amazed. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had seen and heard. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all that they had seen and heard. This beautiful story that Luke tells of shepherds out in the field and an angel appearing to them, and the angel choir, is one of the most beautiful segments of the Christmas story, reminding us that God's glory comes to all people, whether they be kings from afar or shepherds out in the field. But the shepherd story also creates a few questions for us. For one thing, what are shepherds doing out in the field watching their flock in December? There's no grass out there in December. They should be in the sheepfold where they can be cared for and fed. But of course, we've always known that the date, December 25th, for the birth of Jesus, was very arbitrarily selected. And it was selected mostly, and they didn't celebrate Christmas for over 300 years, mind you, after the crucifixion. But the date was chosen because there was festivals going on all over the world at this time of the year, in the northern climates at least, because that's when the winter solstice was. And there were these celebrations that the sun was coming back. And the Christians had to redirect the celebrations into something Christian. And so they chose December 25th as the birth of Jesus. But we know if the shepherd story is true, that the real birth of Jesus had to take place either in the spring or in the summer when there was grass in the field where the shepherds could be out there. Another question that comes to my mind with the shepherds, of course, is if they went to Bethlehem to see the babe, what did they do with the sheep? Who was watching the sheep while they were gone? And how many shepherds were there anyway? Was it just one family and their sheep? Or were several families together? And how many shepherds? I don't know. No one knows. I like to think that maybe there were 7, 8, 9, whatever. And there were several families together. You can mark your sheep so that they can be distinguished from the others. And if that were the case, then you have to choose a couple at least that you're going to leave with the sheep to keep guard on them. And who would that fall to? But probably a couple of young boys. The youngest ones were going to be the ones that had to stake around. And I can picture these two boys, maybe 7 and 8, saying, grumbling, why do we have to stay here? You guys get to go. But after the grumbling was done and the others had left to go see the babe, wondering, what was that we just saw? What happened out here? Did you hear the angels? What's going to happen? What does it mean? Indeed. And I can see them talking as they sit around the fire there, saying, it must mean that God is finally raising up someone to get rid of these Romans, just like he did with Judah Maccabee many years ago when he conquered the Assyrians and cleansed the temple. And remember how they lit the lamp and it burned for 8 days, even though they had only oil for 1? Remember? This must be something even bigger than that. Maybe, how old do you suppose he'll be when he gets his army together? 18, 19? Maybe we can be part of that. We can help overthrow these Romans. After all, that's the kind of Messiah they were looking for. No one could believe that God was going to do something like Jesus actually became. Even his disciples couldn't really believe it. Remember on the way to Jerusalem how Jesus said, I must go and be crucified. And Peter said, never! We won't let that happen, Lord. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. Get behind me. I must do this. And so they went. No one was looking for that, though. But I can see these boys wondering. And when the others came back asking, what was it like? Who was he? And it's just a baby. What did it mean? Indeed. The greater question in my mind is what happened to the shepherds the next day, or the next month, or the next year? What effect did it have on their lives later on? Was it just something they tried to tell people about? And I can imagine people saying, what were you drinking out in that hillside? Because that's a rather astounding story. But as I thought about what did the shepherds, what happened to them later, I couldn't help but think, as we come to the end of 2020 and the vaccine finally coming and we can see maybe a light at the end of the tunnel for this COVID-19. What is 2020 going to mean for us as we go on? Sometimes these events are hard to put together, where we're going with them. What does it mean? And sometimes all we want to do is remember them. And I see on Facebook most people want to just get 2020 behind us so that we can get over this thing. And that's what happens with a lot of events. I think of Jesus and the disciples on the Mount of Transfiguration, where they're visited by Moses and Elijah. And what do they want to do when it's over? Well, we want to build some monuments here. And Jesus, I love that, where Jesus says, no, we have work to do. Or I think of how it changed the life of a man named Saul, who saw his faith and religion being destroyed by this sect that had grown up proclaiming Jesus as Christ. And Saul is determined to rid the country of these people. And he's on his way to Damascus to chase them there, and gets knocked off his horse and stricken blind, and hears this voice, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And Saul says, who are you? And he hears the voice say, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom you are persecuting. And after his sight is restored in Damascus, it was such a momentous experience that he changes his name from Saul to Paul and goes throughout the Mediterranean region in the years that follow, creating one church after another and sustaining them, so that most historians say if it weren't for Paul, there probably wouldn't be a Christian church today. Some of these events like that. And you have to wonder with the shepherds, but I wonder more with us. What is 2020 going to mean? Are we just going to put on our t-shirts and say, I survived the pandemic of 2020? Or is it going to be more? I know for me, I will never be able to take a hug for granted again. Hugs are precious. And the next time I'm able to put my arms around you, I may cry. Even think about it brings tears to my eyes. What will happen when all this is over? The family events. I could never take being able to celebrate a birthday again with family around, going to a restaurant and sitting down together. A glorious thing. And certainly Thanksgiving and Christmas. Never taken for granted again, ever. I've been proud of our church during this time. It's amazing that we've been able to stay as a congregation in the midst of all of this. And I'm thankful to Tina for how she's worked to keep us together. I never heard of Zoom before all of this took place. And I know my first attempts at Zooming were pretty bad. I told everyone, my ancient laptop doesn't have a camera, so I can't do Zoom on my laptop. Well, it does have a camera, I found out. And I do Zoom today just automatically. And I'm looking forward to our caroling today by way of Zoom at 11:30. I'm glad we're going to do that. And if you haven't done Zoom and join our study and stuff like this, you ought to try it. If I can do it, you can do it. You can even be done on your phone. But come Zoom with us. And when Tina announced back in March that we were going to have worship on Facebook, I couldn't believe how that could happen. Would it even feel like church? But Betty and I set up our coffee table in the living room and put our phone there and watch it. And Betty has her phone and watching the comments and stuff. And you know, we do connect. And it does feel right. And I'm so glad that we will finally be able to be back together again. But I know that we're going to keep Facebook Live anyways, even then. And I'm glad, because there's something about that. We're able to reach people sometimes at a time when other than Sunday morning, and sometimes just people that can't be here. And that'll be wonderful. There's so much, I'm thankful for here. I'm thankful for the young adult group, that they continue their community dinners, and we're having one next Tuesday. And I know we'll stop by and pick up our meal. It's takeout, but we'll do it. And it's wonderful that the community dinners have continued. And I'm so thankful for Daisy for organizing that cookie thing, where she took cookies out to the merchants and other people in the community. That was beautiful. And when they brought a tin of cookies to my house, Daisy, I didn't need another cookie. But I did need the love that came with it. And I thank you. I thank you for all of you that have done so much here. And I wonder, as we move from 2020 to 2021, as we move past the pandemic to another life, what will it be like? There's so many people that have done so much. I think of our healthcare workers who are so overwhelmed at this present time and how they give so much. I saw pictures of people in those food lines stretching for miles, or a parking lot just packed with people needing food. Many of them had never asked for food in their lives. And I think of those pictures from the Great Depression, the food lines. We just do it differently today. But I think also of the thousands of people who have volunteered to help. There's so much being done. What will 2020 be like for us? Once upon a time, there was a wise man who lived in a cave on the edge of town. And people would come from the village and talk to him about their problems or anything they wanted to discuss and get his wisdom. But there was one man in the village that didn't like him at all. He didn't like his fame. He didn't like that he was getting so much attention. And he wanted to discredit him. So he devised a scheme. He decided he was going to take a bird and put it in his hands and take it to the wise men and say, "Wise men, tell me, is this bird alive or is this bird dead?" And if the wise man said the bird is dead, he's going to open his hands and the bird would fly away. But if the wise man said the bird is alive, he would just squeeze the bird and kill it and say, "No, the bird is dead." So the man gets the bird, takes a few of his friends along because after all he wants witnesses, and he says, "Wise man, I have a bird in my hands. Is it alive or is it dead?" And the wise man looks him in the eyes and said, "I guess it's up to you, my son." 2020. Is it something we're going to just push away and get it over with as quickly as possible? Or is it something that's going to compel us into the future with determination and hope? I guess it's up to us. Join me in prayer. Lord of light and love, angel choirs visiting shepherds on a hillside, teach us to fear not, but to go boldly into the future, to do your will. Through the Son who was born on Christmas Day, we give you thanks. Amen.
Let us sing together, Angels from the Realms of Glory. I'd like to offer to us a poem, The Work of Christmas by Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. I invite you to receive the benediction. We wait for justice while we work for change. We wait for restored health while we work to heal. We wait for wholeness while we work to bind brokenness. We wait for peace while we work to eliminate hatred. And so, my friends, like bells ringing out the news that we believe the good will prevail, fill the night left by sadness with light. Go into your lives humming the tune that keep the goodness alive in you and that spur you on in your work of justice and reconciliation. Raise your voice and repeat after me. Do not be afraid.
Not be afraid. Go in peace, my mighty friends. Thanks for hanging in with us this morning. God be with you.